started back 100%. So even though all the choppiness that's going on, the underlying rotation in the market, when we look at the indices, we really haven't been triggered on our risk on, risk off type models at this point.
Mhm. Nice, nice. I'm glad to hear that because I also reported 100 this week for the same
Yeah.
reasons. I'm just not seeing it. I mean, I don't love this market, but it's bad, but it's not that bad, right? Nothing to be.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
rotation we've seen rotation out into some more of the traditional defensive sectors, right? So you've seen
Mhm.
utilities go up, staples, things like that rotate out. At the same time, we look at the index level. We haven't really seen any real significant move. It's been a kind of consolidated sideways pattern really since October. I said I've had the career trajectory of a ping pong ball. I've definitely had
Nice.
many different careers. I started my career. I went to undergrad here in New York City, a
Mhm.
school called Fordham. And I was lucky enough back then, I got an internship with a pretty large fee-only advisor at Oppenheimer. And so I started with him early on. That was probably about 20 years ago at this point.
Mhm.
And back when I started with Oppenheimer, it was really managed mutual funds. So it was kind of a completely different game. Really wasn't an opportunity to go independent. I ended up going back to business school, went into the energy sector. So I've worked oil and gas for the last 10 years. And I really want to go come back into the wealth management side when I started to see my parents kind of struggle to get good retirement advice. Clients are mostly retirees and pre-retirees, so the focus for them is really on maintaining cash flow.
Right.
But in terms of watching what's going on, I mean, not necessarily individual vehicles, but obviously credit spreads are usually a big
Mhm.
component. Those can be a leading indicator that there's an underlying problem, right? Similar
Yeah.
to the 2000, 2007, 2008 type area.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. That makes me think of the I think it was Greg Morris's book. I don't know if you've read that one. One of the first things in there shows like if somebody taking distributions and they go through this big 50% drawdown, how that just destroys their income, their retirement income if they're living off that money. So having risk mitigation makes all the difference. And the downside risk is so much more important than the upside gains, really, when you get into it long term for somebody who's trying to live off the income. So yeah, no, I totally understand you've got to manage risk first to make income last. It's not about outperforming when things are good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just that. I always say there's like the financial, there's the math side, right? Which is important
Mhm.
because it's sequence of returns, which is kind of what you're talking
Yeah.
about there, right? That can be really, mathematically deadly. There's also the psychological side too, that once that paycheck stops, right, people do start to
Mhm.
look at their money differently. And
Yeah.
I talk about it like it's like playing poker for like dollar antes versus like $1,000 antes, right? And the stakes kind of go up there in retirement, I found. So even if mathematically we can show you that you could weather the storm through 30, 40, 50% drawdown, psychologically, I found most people are not really going to be able to spend through there, even if we could show them something that they can make it through, right? They're going to make adjustments. It's going to have an impact on the lifestyle. And then, if they get unlucky and there's kind of a spending shock, which could be like a medical bill,
Mhm.
some
Yeah.
type of remodel or something that's where we can really get into problems, specifically for the average retiree.